Well, here we are back in the saddle, and this one is a doozy, folks. We are here to chat about not one, but 2.5 sort of games. That's right, folks. We've climbed aboard the dreadful whale and we're setting sail back to 2020, 2012. I forgot how to read dates there. Oh my God, it is going to be a night. 2012, 2016, and 2017 to discuss not just Dishonored, but the entire Dishonored franchise. Listeners, this is a big one, and we'll do our best to be your guides. Before all that, for new listeners, I'm David, and I'm here with my usual partner in crime, Alex. Alex, how are you today? This one feels like it's been a long time coming. Here.
Yes, it has indeed. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed how it's started off our year.
Yeah.
And I've kind of enjoyed the gap since then, although that's probably not going to serve me very well for this podcast in advance, dear listener. But I've been cranking through some games since I finished Dishonored 2. Unfortunately, not Death of the Outsider, which David will carry us through towards the end of the pod, because that just does not work for me. I could not get it to work, and it does not run nicely on Xbox either. So that was a note from me. Yeah. Since then, I jumped in as my main game playing Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh, how are you getting on with that? God damn it.
Really like it. I really like it. It's still stupid.
Okay.
There's the whole pawn system, they are so weird, the pawns. The whole premise of it.
Jump in. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's probably worth it, because then you can so I did, for anyone out there listening who's ever seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, my character is Garth Marenghi and his pawn is Thornton Reed, obviously played by Richard Ayoade in the show. So I was sitting there, my wife walked in on me while I was sitting there looking at Richard Ayoade on my phone and just making a man on the computer I'm making people from Dark Place in the game. Don't judge me. So the pawns, they're really dumb. They just talk shit all the time to you. They're like, you're their master, so they call you master all the time. And somebody, you'll pick something up and one of them will say, oh, we'll get a lot of coin if we sell this one, master. And then the other one will go, because you're the Arisen. The Arisen is very prudent with his coin. He will decide how we spend or whether we don't, or how we sell it. So it's just, they talk so much shit. It's very much a gameplay game over a story game. Right. The story I couldn't give less of a shit about. Combat is great. I started off as I don't remember what it's called. It might be a warrior class. I think it might be the class below that. It's like a swordsman anyway. And I thought, what am I doing? I play all games like this. So I switched to an archer at first and then hated it because I got killed really easily when I went somewhere by accident. Mm-hmm. But then I stuck with it and started to really enjoy it. And now I've gone and found the way to upgrade they're called vocations. I upgraded my vocation to a magical archer. So now I'm just trying to figure out how to play that. But it's really fun when you're running about in the world and you find a giant cyclops or whatever, and you can climb. It's all about climbing up backs of stuff on this. You can do a lot of climbing on the back of them. And when I was an archer, I had explosive arrows and I could climb up on the top of a big monster and jam an explosive arrow in its head and it would just explode. Really, really good. So yeah, that's big dumb fun. And feel free to get involved with it, and then we can have some chats. Yeah, I was just lucky enough that a mate of mine gave me his disc version of it, and he said, "Yeah, I've finished with it if you want to borrow it." Excellent. And it's finally been patched enough that it has a performance mode. It still doesn't run very well, but for the most part,
good enough.
You're getting something of a smooth enough frame rate for me to accept that. And then I decided to go shoot 'em mad. So I've been playing they did that sort of remaster of Doom and Doom 2.
Yes.
Last year, I think it was. So I've been playing Doom,
which so good.
I mean, let me tell you something you already know. That stakes a real claim to be the greatest video game ever made for me. Just a brilliant video game.
So good.
Even now, the gore in it still makes me smile all the time. And then I bought it's probably because I was watching fucking videos when I was bored and I watched G-Man. So then I started playing Duke Nukem 3D.
Oh my God.
They did was it 20, 30 years? Can't have been 30 years. 20. It might have been a 20-year. Anyway, they did an anniversary edition of that game anyway. So I've played some of that. Really still like that. That's also a fantastic video game. Still plays great. And then I watched a video again of G-Man ranking the Wolfenstein games. And
that is a good video. Yes.
So I installed the Old Blood because I've never played that, and I started. That's like the expansion to the first sort of reboot one. So I think it was like Wolfenstein: The New Order, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, or something like that. So it's the one in the middle of those.
I've only
apparently it's like 3 to 4 hours, and it's like a prequel set during the end of the war. So I was really up for playing something like that. But before that, I thought I was going to do them like some of the more recent ones in order. So I've actually been playing Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the original Xbox.
Having a great time.
I have been having a great time. That game is quite tough, but it again. Really enjoyable. That one runs kind of badly, actually. Even on my OG Xbox, it's not a smooth 60 on there at all. It's probably a PC game ported to it, but I had to really rejig the controls. They were insane before I did that. But that one's good fun. He ranked that as number one, like as his favorite.
He thinks
Wolfenstein.
it's a bit of a sort of what's the word? It's a bit of a niche darling. That's not the right term, but it's like it's quite beloved, that game, by its community.
Yeah. It's a pretty solid World War II style shooter with some zombies in it towards the end and some tombs and things. But it still plays quite nicely. It's really hard to actually play that game unless you're on an Xbox or I don't even know how you play it on PC. I've got no idea. I don't know if you could try emulating the Xbox version, I suppose.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, and so I was playing that briefly, and then my daughter walked in and started like hiding behind me because she was scared. I should never have let her watch any of it, to be honest. But she likes things with monsters in, and because it had monsters in, I thought that would be okay for a little bit.
Yeah,
and then the Nazis came back in it, and there was a cutscene where the main villain of the piece had she's a woman and she's quite stocky. And she has this white shirt on with like, the little SS badge and the Nazi thing. And she was like, I like her shirt. I was like, turning it off right now. Obviously, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But no, that's off. So I thought I may have scarred my daughter here and I've got her praising Nazi uniforms. So I put Diddy Kong Racing on and she loved it.
Excellent.
There was nothing, everything. Oh, Dad, a rainbow, a dinosaur, an elephant. She was loving it. So I'm indoctrinating her back into normality with something I absolutely love. And I was just totally like, I'm still shit hot at that game. I fucking rule at Diddy Kong. And I think I've saved my daughter's soul. So that's what all the things I've pumped into my brain that's made me forget a lot about Dishonored.
Excellent news. What have I been doing? I've been sort of dabbling with RPGs, and haven't particularly loved either of them. So I've liked but not loved. So I've played and finished a game that came out called Eternal Strands. It was made by I think it was an ex-BioWare dev that I think worked on Dragon Age. Okay.
Is that recent? Is that like 2025 game?
Yeah, it came out in Game Pass. So I was like, I may as well give it a go. It is a B. What is it called? A B game asked B game. Like it's incredible. They've got an incredibly like simple gameplay loop and it's an RPG, like a bare bones RPG without loads of layers stuck on top of it, which is actually quite refreshing in a way. It gameplay wise, think Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild meets Shadow of the Colossus boss fights.
Oh, okay.
So it is actually like excellent fun to play. So you're running about this world. You can climb everything like you can in Breath of the Wild. You do sort of missions, run from point to point, and then in each world there are these like respawning giant bosses that you've got to climb all over, destroying certain areas, so they'll have like armor on, so you've got to like climb up his back and knock off all the hooks and chain links that are holding his armor together, and then get round to the front to harvest them, which then lets you upgrade your different powers that you can use. It definitely overstayed its welcome. It could have been probably about 10 hours less than it was. Let's say it's a 30-hour game, could have been a 20-hour game, and I'd have been content. Also found that like I could not care less about the story. It is so uninteresting. It's
I
fun.
find that too much these
Yeah.
days. It's really disappointing.
As fun as the game is, the world that they've created is just boring as shit. So I finished that. Had a decent time.
It looks quite cool, actually.
It
It's
is
nothing like what I expected from these videos. I've just lobbed on right now.
But yeah, like I said, like the characters are just like sickly sweet, in that way, exact way that you're thinking, which is a real downer because the gameplay was great. And then I've been sort of poking at Avowed, which is, again, it plays well. It's a fun game to play. Like the combat's really fun. I just don't care about anything else that the game has to offer. Like the only way I can think to describe it is it's like walking around a movie set. And I feel like if you turn the corner quickly enough, you'll see like someone putting the makeup on the shopkeepers because everyone just stands still as you run around.
I just find that baffling.
It's baffling, yeah. So it's like this really pretty movie set you're walking around in. I don't know how long I'll stick with that. I think I'm interested that you're playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and this may be a jumping off point to give me something that's not Avowed to play.
American.
Because I'm finding I'm just playing that for the sake of it. Because it's sort of an interesting, I'm using that word again, loads. It's sort of a thing I've been thinking about for some reason, far more than it really merits it. When you're playing a game that you really don't care about what's going on, but the gameplay's fun, is it okay to, I guess you would say yes to this, is it okay to just sort of play it until you've had your fill of the gameplay, then bounce? Because there's nothing else that's keeping me at that game.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I just have this weird compulsion to finish games. And I'm like, I've started, so I need to finish.
I agree.
When actually, the sensible thing to do would go, like, you've had a decent time with that. You don't care about the story, so you should be satisfied and then just move on to something else that's more interesting. But
that's on them. They haven't kept your attention in the game. And that is through what I'm seeing frequently, referred to as just kind of like bland writing that just doesn't have interesting characters, doesn't have any like proper tension. It's just all a bit nice.
Given the game that we're about to discuss,
inoffensive,
or the game series that we're about to discuss, I am so primed to just lose myself in a world, get carried away with a story, and just sit and just like wallow in this universe for a game. But there's just nothing coming at me just now, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I think Dragon's Dogma, you may find the same in that the gameplay will be what will keep you invested in wanting to carry on, and once that runs out, you might bounce. I don't know how long it is. I've heard somebody say that the end game state of Dragon's Dogma is like mind blowing.
Really?
But it takes like 70 hours to get there, so I don't know.
And do you get like other people? Go and explain how the pawns work to me, because I'm pretty sure you can get like other people's pawns in your game.
Yeah. So when you start the game, you create your character, and then very soon after, because you are the Arisen, you have command of pawns. So you have to create a pawn for yourself, and then he can be hired by other players, and then you can also hire 2 extra pawns. Sometimes Capcom will give you a pawn, or at least offer you a pawn that you can hire.
With your English accent, all I can hear is porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair. Do I want Capcom's pawn? Maybe. So you have these things called like rifts. Then you can enter the rift, and basically it will just sort of line up these virtual slaves for you, and you can decide what vocation of them you want. You can drill down and such. Like there will never be a lack of pawns that you can hire for your services. So typically, what I'll do is I'll go in there, I'll grab. I think it seems to work out like if they're the same level as you, then they don't cost anything. You have this currency that I think you just earn from just playing the game. I haven't figured out how I've ever earned it. I think you just get it the same way you get XP. It's kind of a bit of both. And so anything that's higher level than you'll start having to spend this currency to hire them. So what I've typically tried to do is hire them up until I've out leveled them by a couple of levels, and then just get rid of them and hire a couple more. So yeah, you're basically always running around in a party of 4 players, unless one of them dies, and then you they just sort of disappear. Yours doesn't. He can be retrieved, but if the other two die, and then you can set tasks for the people who hire your pawn to do. So you can say, when you have my pawn, I want him to earn badges, and I want him to earn a badge for killing Cyclopses. So if they kill a Cyclops, you can offer them a reward, and if they do it, your pawn will come back with extra of that currency, so you get more. So you can effectively go and hire like a level 50 if you're a level 35 if you've got enough money, and they should just absolutely slaughter everything. But it's quite fun, especially as the archer class, because I would typically have like a warrior and then like a thief class that would go like all in straight up to the enemy. I'm just hanging back, pinging explosive arrows at them, while my specific pawn is just casting healing spells on me, so I don't have to worry about healing. Yeah, Richard Iowati's healing. I felt he had mage vibes, so I made him a mage.
He's
a sorcerer now.
He's in Fable, right? You got a voice.
That's true.
That, so yeah, I'm guessing there's some sort of magic going on there.
Yeah, so technically you could hire my pawn. I guess you could hire Iowati if I told you there must be a code of some kind that you can use to search for him. But typically, you'll just pick up any random shit. I think I hired Siri at one point, or at least somebody had made Siri, but they basically dressed her in a bra and panties.
That checks out for the video game.
Yeah, so I hired that, obviously.
Yeah, you had no choice, really.
Yeah. Well, it's really funny because at several points in the game, I've had 3 pawns who are all men, and they keep commenting on it, and my pawn gets annoyed. Like, one of them's like, I can't help but notice that we're all men here, and the other guy's like, don't think too much about it. Because they say, like, is this something to do with the origin's preference? And so they call you out for it. It's quite funny.
Yeah, it's quite good.
So yeah, it's a daft, silly game that has really, really solid combat that you can tailor very much like to how you want to play it, or you can just climb stuff and twat them in the head. Very fun.
Excellent.
Recommended.
Yeah, I'm going
especially now it runs properly.
I'm going to go check this out after, see if I can find any deals on CD keys or how much it is on various storefronts.
Yeah, I don't know how good it is on PC, because I know it's very CPU heavy. So I would aim to try and get it on Xbox, because at least I can vouch for the fact that it will work
fine. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Right, Alex, before we dive in, let's talk general thoughts about the Dishonored franchise as a whole. How did you find playing it? Have you played through when you played through the games? What did you enjoy? What's stuck with you? Things about the world, stuff like that, and then we can go into specifics.
Well, I definitely came into this with a memory of deeply loving the original game.
Yeah.
I sent you at some point a review that I wrote back when we were doing our website, and I gushed over it. I couldn't believe how good this game was when I first played it in, did you say 2012?
Yes, 2012.
I have come away from replaying it, loving it even more, and feeling entirely vindicated in sort of proclaiming it to be the masterpiece that I did back in the day, and blown away by how much more I enjoyed the sequel as well. Just, I think I don't know if you've said it on the podcast, I think you must have done, that you sort of gained more of a desire to get involved with immersive sims off the back of this.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And I think I'm with you there. It's a genre that I've always kind of felt was intrinsically linked to stealth games, and I'm not very good at stealth games. But this game series obviously has ways to perform stealth. I don't really play enough stealth games to know for certain, but it feels like this is quite a unique take on how to do it. It's not just creeping around and stabbing in the back. There's just so much more to it than that. The level of invention it allows you to have is, for me, unrivaled. And if I'm wrong, then I'd love to play that game that is better and does more than this, because this just fits exactly into the kind of thing that I want from all of those types of games mixed together. The immersion in a world that I find really, really interesting, both visually, politically, just everything about it. I love how kind of dirty it is and underhanded. I love the way that it looks. I love that steampunk vibe, sort of Victorian London feel to it as well. I like the characters. And I just love exploring every little sandbox level. I think the level design in it is almost perfect. There's
I would agree.
Basically, other than bugs, I don't think I can say a single thing bad about any of these games. I think they're absolutely magnificent.
Yeah.
I really, really love them.
I mean, yeah, I do think like the terms like masterpieces and stuff get chucked around, but see, as like a whole package, like these games are an absolute masterpiece. Like, I just love everything about it. We were talking about earlier when we started this podcast about wanting to get lost in a world, and I was just gobbling everything I could up about this series. I loved being sort of immersed in it. It felt sort of gritty and horrible in a way that I just found completely compelling. It is the ultimate game that feels like you're given a set of tools and then it just plonks you in a scenario and it's up to you to figure out how to manipulate the world around you so that you can get to the objective in a way that other games don't feel like that. This may be unfair, but like for instance, I'm trying to think of like Indiana Jones, for example, which is kind of what put this game on my radar because people kept likening it to an immersive sim.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones is a game that feels very much like it's a great world, it's fun to interact with, but like say you approach a scenario, there's maybe 2 or 3 options and you get to pick which option you want to pursue to complete an objective, whether that's sneaking in, whether that's running in, or whether it's doing something else. Like there's like multiple entrances. This game felt there's every chance that it's just like how I've described it, but it never felt like that to me. It felt like, so if you were trying to get into a building to find someone, it genuinely felt like an actual building and you were just sort of poking around at the edges. And if you sort of found a way to get in, it didn't often feel like a video gamey look under this crack to crawl through here. It felt like you'd sort of genuinely figured out a way to get in. Does that make sense? I'm kind of like garbling around that. It didn't feel manufactured. It felt authentic. What I'm looking for.
Yes, it's that we've talked about it before. I think probably with Prey as an example, which again is the same developer, where it feels like you're breaking the game sometimes with how you go about things, and I really like how they lent completely into that in the second game with the Clockwork Mansion, where they want you to be outside the walls of the building that you're in, kind of in the gaps between the walls, so to speak, where you're in the places that you were trying to find yourself organically previously. It's like now it's leading you this way. I remember seeing when Prey came out and it had that glue gun and the speed runs for Prey within the first sort of 6 months of it coming out were like 12 minutes to finish the whole game because people were just climbing up walls with this glue gun and jumping out of bound. And Arcane's games seem to kind of provoke that in its player base, that this level of experimentation. Yeah. And I respect that so much because they pull it off, and what you can pull off makes you feel like you're a really smart kind of player, which I always love when games try and make you feel smart without pandering to you or holding your hand or pushing you too far towards one thing or another. These games just absolutely nail that player freedom.
I totally agree, and I just like that I just absolutely love how that seemed to be at the core of everything this game is, the what you're talking about, player freedom. So that whether that's like the way you approach a level or the way that you want to interact with your powers or how you want to treat the inhabitants of the world around you. If you want to just be a ruthless killer, you can do that, but there are consequences to that. Whereas I think that just as there are consequences to trying to be a nice boy, creeping about, not killing people. And I think we spoke about this in a previous podcast, perhaps, but there's one of the early levels where you're trying to sneak into a building, and to get to, you've got to sort of, you get off the boat at the harbour sort of area, and you've got to sort of travel towards the building. When they were developing the game, one of the testers found that you could sort of use the warp ability, or what's it called? It's not called the
blink.
The blink, that's it. To like basically almost blink yourself out of the map, and you could get around a lot of the barriers and the electric barriers, and a lot of the people doing their guards, and the guards doing their sort of patrols and things like that. And when they found that, rather than sort of block it up and stop people from being able to do it, they built it into the level, and it ended up becoming an actual part of the game So they added textures to it. They made it into like a roof area that if you can find it, you can then sort of circumvent a lot of the stuff. And I just love that because it's just like, again, going back to the word freedom, it's just like we've created this tool set and it's up to you to figure out how you want to use it, and you can use it in any way you want. And there really are no rules. Like so often you might feel like you've broken the game in inverted commas by finding a way around something, but actually it's probably just another option for something they could do, because again, that's an example that they actively try to empower players rather than take things away and funnel people through things. They just create an environment and allow you to exist in it. And then on top of that, like, yeah, I agree with you that the settings amazing. Like the characters are sort of eerie and sort of dirty and grimy, and most people are quite dislikable in a way. And
which is what in the way that they should be.
Yeah,
I want these people to die by my hand because they have wronged me and they are shits. Not they're dislikable because they're badly written douchebags.
Yeah,
by a committee. This is. Yeah, they really know how to make an unlikable bastard in these games that I just want to see murdered by me.
Absolutely, and they even have you sort of. I like how they sort of make it all grey insofar as you've got to interact with like gang members and things like that, and there's that granny someone, I forgot, Granny Rags, when you sort of meet her. And then when
that's Susan Sarandon.
Is it?
Yeah.
You meet her first, and then when I met her anyway, I sort of snuck in her top door, and then I went downstairs, and there was like another gang trying to break her door down. And at that point, I hadn't even encountered Granny Rags, so it just seemed like she was being robbed. So I just bust the door open and like smashed them all up. And then went back in. Yeah. And then I actually met Granny Rags, and I'm like, oh, actually, you're a bit scary.
She's
something not nice about you. Yeah.
How did your story with her end? Did you help her boil the head of that gang alive like I did?
I had to fight her in the end. So you helped her?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember where hold on, I've got it. Let me find it. I've got so many fucking notes here.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, she cooks him. She cooks him. Yeah, she cooks him.
Right. Yeah.
She cooks slackjaw in a pot.
That's right. Yeah,
so I helped her do that because I just thought, why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, you got to go up to her bed, and she's got, because apparently when you try and like knock her out or send her to sleep, she's able to warp away. And then she just comes back and attacks you.
Well, she gives you runes, right? So she's obviously got some connection to the outsider at some point, it feels like.
She seems like...
I don't know if you've researched this more than I have.
No, I haven't. No, you might be right in that regard. She reminded me of the sort of Brigmore witches, sort of maybe perhaps an early version of those, but you're right. Maybe she does have some connection to the outsider.
Nah.
What have you seen?
The internet is really scary. I just opened up Dishonored wiki and went to the search bar, and it says trending searches, top trending search, Granny Rags. What the fuck's that? What
is going on?
That is weird.
Her magic is out with the game now.
Let's see. Has she got anything to do with the outsider? She's a powerful and partially immortal witch who, like Corvo Altano, employs supernatural powers that were granted to her by the outsider.
There we go. He's at the core of everything, that son of a bitch.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the TV show Gotham?
No, I think I saw episode 1, and that was as far as I got.
Yeah, it was incredibly camp. I watched quite a lot of that with my dad back when I was still at home. And the guy who played the Penguin in that TV show, Robin something or other, he is the voice of the outsider in not the first game but the second game. Weirdly, they changed the voice of that guy.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
You
might have to explain to me the nature of the outsider kind of.
Yeah, I think so.
Interacting with people and why he does that to certain people.
I think I'll try and touch on that in Death of the Outsider.
Okay,
it's that whole sort of standalone expansion revolves around how he came to be and why he is how he
great.
is, and you have to deal with him one way or another at the end of the game. Where did I get to? Yeah, I agree. I think like this is a true masterpiece, and it's a shame that we may not get another one. There was a rumored Dishonored 3 in development because it came to light during there was a big court case where they had to publish emails and things like that, and they had started development on a Dishonored 3, but it seems to have stopped because it was meant to be coming out in 2024, and obviously it hasn't, and now Arcane is no more, are they?
Well, that was it, that one that made this game, because the one that they've shuttered was a studio of Arcane that did
so there is still
I think Arcane do still exist, but I don't know
in what guise,
because that wasn't like American. That was an American arc of Arcane. Arcane Austin, they're the ones gone. I think Arcane Leon are the ones that did this,
and they're still there. So we may get one then. They must be working on something, right?
What do we got?
Which Arcane made?
Besides Arcane Leon, Arcane Studios also operated Arcane Studios as Arcane Austin in Austin, Texas. So yeah, Arcane Leon are still going.
Which one made Deathloop? Does it say there?
They did Prey, Arcane Austin.
Okay. An excellent game.
Yeah. Arcane Leon co-developed Wolfenstein Youngblood, the one everybody hates.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Great.
Deathloop was Arcane Leon, and then Arcane Austin made Redfall.
Apparently Deathloop is in the same world as Dishonored.
How?
It is set in the future, apparently.
Okay, right, okay. What's your feelings about that? I've seen the skill. If you watch the Skill Up review of that, which we're showing our hand of how we get some of our opinions here, he did not like that game at all.
I never played it.
I have it on PS5. I just started it and then bounced off and played something else. Probably.
Yeah, I think I've probably got it installed on some sort of machine because I've always sort of planned to loop back around to it and then just never made it. I don't know. It feels like one of those things that's just almost like an Easter egg. I'm not really sure what it means. I've got a list here of actual stuff that is in Deathloop. Let's have a look. See if I've make sure.
Someone gave Deathloop a 10 out of 10. I'm pretty sure.
Deathloop.
Someone
here we go.
Did it. Who gave it a 10 out of 10? GameSpot. And IGN.
Okay. Well.
So it's got a 5-year anniversary next year.
Maybe that's the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Deathloop.
I know you smiled because I said anniversary there, but it's true. It's just the way it has to be.
The way it is. Deathloop apparently takes place on a place called Black Reef Island off the coast of a place called Motherland, which has been confirmed as Tivia in Dishonored. Tivia is mentioned in one of the props, which is a magazine in the game. They've got addresses that are in Dunwall. It mentions Dunwall. You can find a pair of Dishonored pistols in the game. There's a clock tower in Dishonored that's got DUNW engraved on it.
Okay.
Two of the abilities in Deathloop, Shift and Nexus, are very similar to Blink and Domino. There's a song in Deathloop called "The Drunken Whaler," which is obviously a nod to the whale ship. What else have we got? An enemy in front of the library mentions a scientific unit called Joplins, which is Dishonored. Some of the businesses, so like Rovio and Evans, which I think is maybe the place. I was going to say it's maybe that safe company that you see in Dishonored 2. Right. That's in some of the company names are still in Deathloop.
Okay.
And this goes on. It's just like little nods here and there. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It feels more like a gimmick, just like a sort of nod to their game. Than
I always like that kind of stuff. Like you've developed your own kind of universe, and you've got these sort of your own bespoke little aspects to it, and you just kind of let them seep into your other properties. It's a very Tarantino thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Red Apple cigarettes and all that kind of shit. Like that's always just kind of showing up in the Big Kahuna Burger, all that bollocks.
Well, I liked it in Alan Wake, which is sort of like tangentially links all his games into the same universe, which is quite fun how he does that.
Yep. All right, September next year. Then we're playing Deathloop.
It's on. It's booked in. Apparently, Dishonored was originally going to be set in medieval Japan, but the game was dropped.
Certainly makes the name kind of sound more viable for a Japanese setting. Yeah.
Apparently, they had difficulties presented in marketing the set. They felt that they would have difficulties marketing the setting, and because no member of the design team knew much about the Japanese culture, they decided not to. Which, that's as good as anything.
All right, let's talk about the plague instead.
Yeah, so Arcane,
we know about that, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. Arcane then moved the setting to London in the year 1666, considering that the city was recognisable to Europeans and Americans. Later designs inspired added gameplay mechanics such as floodlights, electrified barriers, and 20th century technologies that it no longer resembled London. And Arcane opted to develop a fictional city. The city of
I was about to say,
the city of Dunwall, designed to be contemporary and cool period piece that was inspired by late 19th and earliest 20th century London and Edinburgh, apparently, which I can see it. It definitely feels like that. Like you mentioned at the start of the podcast, it felt like very Victorian England, and yes, it definitely is that. Well, we do a quick rundown of the story. I've tried to be as brief as I can. But if we
go for it.
The story for Dishonored, and then we can have a chat about Dishonored, and then move on to Dishonored 2.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, this follows the story of Royal Protector Corvo Attano after he was framed for the assassination of Empress Jessamine Caldwin. After an escape. Yeah, so I've tried to be so neat that I haven't even explained what then happens. So you get framed for murdering the Empress, and then you get chucked in prison. You then manage to organise an escape from prison, and you make contact with a group of allies known as the Loyalists, who claim to be a resistance group dedicated to rescuing Jessamine's kidnapped daughter and returning the heir to the throne. During the early stages of the game, while resting, Corvo is then contacted by a mysterious man known only as the Outsider, and Corvo is branded by his mark, granting Corvo, the player, obviously, mysterious powers that will form the backbone of the gameplay mechanics throughout the franchise. As the game progresses, Corvo rescues Emily. Surprisingly early, I thought, when I was playing this game. I was like, have I got her already? And you gather enough momentum to move against Lord Regent, who is, at that time, sitting on the throne in place of Emily. Once achieved, things quickly unravel after you discover you've been betrayed and poisoned by the Loyalists, who, it turns out, have planned to install Emily on the throne and rule through her and then disposing of you, who obviously you're her protector. It turns out that the person tasked with poisoning you had a rush of consciousness. That's not of conscience. Oh my God. And he poisoned you only enough to make people think that you had died. So you then reawaken, having been sort of set loose, drifting down the river on a raft, but you are soon then taken prisoner by Jessamine's murderer Dowd, who intends to claim a bounty for your head. After escaping these captors, this sets in motion a chain of events that can vary depending on the choices that you make in the game. Corvo then returns to the pub that became your base for much of the game and finds it overrun by guards. During this mission, Corvo discovers where Havelock, who is one of your ex-friends, has taken Emily, and you can, if the player so chooses, save the other characters in the game, Piero and Sokolov and Kalista. Corvo signals to Samuel, who is the guy that poisoned you, who ferries you to the former Lord Regent's lighthouse. At that point, you then infiltrate the lighthouse and either subdue Pendleton and Martin, or find it. So this is dependent on the choice that you've made. Wait a minute, we might have to cut this. I'm tripping over what I'm writing. Let's see if I can make sense of what I've said. Sorry, Alex.
I don't remember what I did to Pendleton.
Right, okay. So depending on the choices you've made, when you get to Lord Regent's lighthouse, You can either subdue Pendleton and Martin or find that Havelock has already killed them, ensuring that the Loyalist actions remain secret. Once finished with Havelock in that mission, Corvo may or may not rescue Emily at this point. Havelock's journal reveals that he has suspected that Emily is Corvo's daughter, which I must have missed, because when it turns out that you're her daughter, you're her dad at the start of the second game, that was complete news to me. I was like, this was not mentioned at any part when I was playing the game.
Not significantly enough, no.
The ending of the game, again, varies depending on the level of chaos the player has caused throughout the game. If Corvo saves Emily, which is completely optional, apparently, she ascends the throne and becomes Empress with Corvo at her side. And if minimal chaos has been caused, a golden age dawns and the plague is overcome. After many decades, Corvo dies of natural causes, and Empress Emily Caldwin, the Wise...
Yeah, that's what they call her, isn't it?
Yeah, the Wise buries him beside Empress Jessamine. If much chaos is caused, the city remains in turmoil and is overrun by the plague. If Corvo fails to save Emily, Dunwall crumbles and Corvo flees the city by ship. I assume we both saved Emily, right? Because I didn't even know that was an option not to in the game.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I had it that Emily was on the throne with me, Corvo advising her. Sokolov and Piero cured the plague because I rescued them from the pub.
Mine sounds very similar.
Callista reunited with her uncle. I forget who our uncle is, but Callista was one of the ones that I think some of the voice cast in this is mad. Like, I'm pretty sure Callista is voiced by Lena Headey from Game of Thrones.
That's amazing.
And Havelock is John Slattery, who was in Mad Men. Did you watch Mad Men?
No.
Oh, okay. He was Roger Sterling in Mad Men anyway.
Emily's someone famous as well, right?
In this Dishonored 2, she's the one who did Bangalore in Apex Legends.
In the first,
Stan ran the pub in my one as well.
In the first one, she's voiced by that little girl in Kick-Ass.
Oh yeah, of course she is. Yeah. Abigail Breslin. Is that who that is? Yeah, she is. Yeah, they love her. They love her famous actress in these.
Yeah, I was actually sort of realized how like absolutely packed with talent this game is in terms of voice acting talent. It's also I had it written earlier in my notes and I haven't mentioned it, that the links this game has to Deus Ex are obvious in many, many ways, sort of in terms of the gameplay, but also that it's sort of the two main heads of the studio at this time were also had a big hand in the making Deus Ex. So it has Deus Ex genes riddled right through it.
Right, okay.
So it's two designers that ended up becoming the creative lead for Arcane, this Arcane that had worked on Deus Ex.
What Deus Ex are we talking about? The Warren Spector
Deus Ex, yes, one? The Warren Spector OG one.
Yeah.
Which, when you were talking about...
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Is there any sort of standout missions you want to discuss about from Dishonored that are sort of in your memory?
Well, I think the standout, I think we can all agree, is the party, Lady Boyle's last party.
Yes, that is, to me, the standout mission. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I absolutely loved that. I've got a list of missions here that I'm trying to remind myself.
Yes, so do I. I wrote that the Royal Physician, the first thing I wrote is, I love this level. Okay.
What's the Royal Physician level? I don't even see it here. Oh, is
that the one? I think that's the one where you have to go up to the Sokolov's tower the first time.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, that is very good. Here we go.
Because I think I started rewiring pylons in that one.
Oh, I didn't really mess with that. So did you do a good... You are better at this than me. It's sort of like trying all the gameplay options. I usually sort of fall into a routine of things that work and just stick with that. I'm not very good at I didn't rewire much. The most I sort of did with that was I would just go up to like yank the whale oil out and lob it off the side of a building so that they couldn't come and put it back in.
I never actually found out for certain whether me choking out a guard and then throwing him off a building counted as me killing him.
It does. I had a good Google of that. Yes, apparently it does.
in that royal physician level, I was chucking so many of them off the top of that tower into the sea, being like, I didn't kill you technically, but I guess I did.
It did, because I started googling it, because there was like a couple of times where, well, the two that jump out of my head is I like choked someone out on a rooftop and then their body just slid off the roof. I was like, oh no. Yeah. And then there was another one where I choked someone out and it was like in like knee-high water, and I just left them in the water and they drowned.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, all right, fine. I didn't realize that.
So I was like, I better Google to see if this is actually causing deaths. And yes, apparently it is, where you're going around just letting people slip off buildings.
Yeah. I think the level before that as well, I think you're in a brothel at one point, and that's to do with the Pendleton twins, which was one of those levels where, well, in fact, most of the levels, let's be honest, the non-lethal way is kind of more fun than the actual for the lethal most part, way.
Yeah.
That's probably a minor criticism I could have of these games, where, I mean, it's kind of difficult to do it anyway, unless you're going the Hitman way of like, here's a ways you can manufacture these people to die,
like
which this game doesn't.
Machine.
Yeah, this game doesn't really do that. It's like you can manufacture ways these people's lives are ruined, or you slit their throat. That's basically it. So if you end up killing them, I think the second game did try a little bit more to like, okay, well, this time you're going to cut their head off or something. Like, I think the death animations, with some slow-mo beheadings and stuff, they tried to zhuzh them up a little bit. But this time, yeah, a lot of the time it just felt like I'd rather do the fucking their lives over bit, because that feels more played out rather than just kind of, I'm just going to stab them, because I just felt a bit boring. But I did enjoy
when you were fucking up people's lives. There was like the odd mission that like what you did was like quite unsettling. Like, so like we've sort of briefly touched on Lady Boyle's last party. You essentially just send her away to live with like a stalker, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I did in the. Well, I didn't do that the first time. I did that the second time.
You had a terrible time with bugs in that level.
Well, I don't know if it was a bug or whether it was my own fault. I mean, that maybe is where you're not trying the rewiring shit probably came in handy, because that is the only thing I can think of that fucked me over, because I did absolutely no killing in that other than rewiring the wall of light. And it just got to a stage where I found her, I walked over to her, and then she would just suddenly go insane and run away screaming, even though I just talked to her. And she'd tell me to follow her, and I'd follow her, and then she'd go mental. And then no matter where I went, if I didn't go talk to her straight away, all the guards would suddenly start attacking me for no reason. So someone must have died in that rewired wall of light, and then that must have just put the aggro filter on me, or the aggro tag on me, so that I was going to get done in.
Maybe what was happening.
The only thing I can think of. But then the second time around, yes, indeed, I gave her to a sex kidnapper, drugged her, and let him take her off in a boat to just be his weird, for the rest of her life. Horrible,
brutal. There's another one where you basically cut someone's tongue out and then send them off to like a camp to live. Like it was basically like a
that was one of the Pendletons. Yeah, that was one of the Pendleton brothers, and that's in the same level where you there's an art dealer. And you can torture him while he's sat in his sex chair, which I absolutely loved. That was bloody awesome. Yeah, that's right. So Slackjaw thugs abduct them, shave their heads, cut their tongues out, and put them to work in their own silver mines, which is very, very funny.
It's brutal.
I wished I'd looted that one. You get there's a safe combination that Slackjaw wants you to find for him, so he can take some money out of it. Yes. You can loot that before you tell him the combination. I really wish I did that.
Yeah, I went and I gave him the combination, then installed.
I cooked the poor bastard in the end anyway.
Yeah, you
so
did.
I guess I win in the end, but I wish I'd nicked his money as well. Because I've been poisoning all their stuff as it was, so it kind of worked in the character I was role playing effectively. If I did steal from him at the same time, because I decided I'm going all against the gangs. Like if the gangs piss me about, they die. The guards, like almost across the board, I'm just going to choke them out to avoid the high chaos. Gang members don't care.
You were
not sure if they count for less chaos or what. I don't know, but I'm going to poison their stuff. I'll kill anybody who looks at me cockeyed.
Did you do before? Actually, we should probably finish off Lady Ball's party. So basically,
let's do that. Yeah.
So the sort of idea behind this mission is that there's a Lady Boyle who is is she funding a lot of what's happening to Emily? So you have to essentially like bust in, figure out who she is because she's quite reclusive, or she's got like 3 twins or something like that. So you've got to walk around this party, speaking to different people, trying to figure out, because there's 3 different Lady Boyles. There's like a black, a red, and a white one, and it changes depending on. So if you play it again, it might not be the same Lady Boyle.
Yeah, that's
in the
right.
same suit. Yeah, so you've got to like
You have
figure
to
out who
work
it
it
is.
out.
Yeah, work it
Yeah.
out, chat to her, and then sort of entice her down into the where you can kill her and be done with it, or entice her down into like the basement where you can send her off with her stalker. That's probably the standout mission.
Yeah, I liked how I was able to possess a fish and swim under a grate to
That
sneak
blew
into
my
her
mind when you
mansion
told
that
me
way.
you did that. That was absolutely incredible. Because I think
Because there's those big tall boy guys like stood right near it, and I just thought, fuck any of that. I'm just going to go swimming.
Oh, that is so good. Because I think
you end up in the cellar that way.
Yeah, I escaped underwater, and I probably went the same route as you with the fish, but I wasn't a fish, so I was getting eaten by the fish.
Oh right, they do that. Yeah,
so I was just like swimming as fast as I could while these like fish were chomping at my arse.
There you go. If you can't beat them, join them. If you can't chomp them, join them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other good missions. Like you're right, the House of Pleasure was a good mission. The Royal Physician was another standout. There really is no bad levels. Did you do a lot of reading around? Like I started. It's certainly in like my first like 5 or 6 hours. I read a lot of the notes I found lying around. Was that anything?
That's unusual for us.
Yeah,
I probably did that too. Yeah, but I
remember the one that
a lot of it.
The one that sort of sticks out in my memory is you get a whole story about how Slackjaw became Slackjaw.
Oh yeah.
So he was basically just like a street urchin kid, and then he sort of just became like really violent and smart, and he was sort of round up his own little kids, and then he basically double crossed or like crossed singularly a big gang member in the city who basically beat him up in front of everyone, just like smashed his jaw up, like broke his jaw, which is why it's called Slackjaw. And then apparently he just took it and didn't say anything. Then he came back the next day, went in and just murdered the guy, and then was just like, I'm taking this gang now. And that was it.
Nice. I'm the captain now.
Yeah. Awesome
I like
game.
That. Awesome. Yeah. Did you kill Dowd or did you leave him alive? I mean,
I left him
this
alive.
is again, one other slight issue I have is that the continuity between each game is not necessarily watertight.
No, they just
certainly
from one, didn't they?
Yeah, they're like, we've decided that you saved Emily, because if you didn't, then there's no number 2.
Yeah.
And if you killed Dowd, then there's no DLC. So you didn't kill him. Or you do kill him at the end of the DLC anyway. So it's kind of, maybe they got around that one, actually. I'll let them off on that. But yeah, I didn't kill him. I found that bit really tough, though. Just trying to get behind him, because I was trying to be a rat to just sort of... I actually did it the first time.
I
ratted behind him.
One animal in the entire game, and that was when you have to do it. To
it kind of teaches you. Yeah. So I there was some rats outside where his little office was. So I ratted behind him, and I managed to do it. But when I got out, I sort of panicked, because I turned back to Corvo while I was like, it just suddenly like made me high up on a table out of nowhere. So I was a rat on the ground, then I turned to Corvo, and somehow now I'm on the table. I absolutely shit myself trying to steal his stuff. And then he noticed me. And then every time I played after that, he would chase that rat around.
Oh, would he?
So I couldn't. Brilliant. Every time I was a rat after that, he was running after me, trying to stamp on me. I was like, "What? You didn't do that a minute ago." So yeah, that was I was desperate not to have to kill him, but there were so many of his guards about. I was really struggling with that one.
Yeah, I just choked him. I like the idea of basically, because he knows that Corvo's coming from him, and I like the idea that you sort of come for him, knock him out, and escape, and then like he knows that you've been in and got right up to him, and just left him. I like the idea that would just mess with his head. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I only did one mission ghost in both of the games, and that was the pub. When you go back to the pub mission, I loved the fact that you go back there and now it's a hostile space.
Yes. Yeah, it was really good at that sort of reusing and repurposing levels for different reasons, because there's a couple carry on.
You go back to the tower where Sokolov was as well as another one of them, isn't it? That's the last mission, right? When you go back up there again.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's when I was becoming a murderer. I turned everything on the guards for that level, like the big arc tower, walls of light, pylons, like almost everybody was getting killed. Because like I did the first time I played it, I've even written in my notes here, everyone who fucked me over dies. So everybody who fucked Corvo over when they turned on him, that's it, right, you're dead.
You went
so
full Punisher on him.
Yeah, so I killed Havelock and then felt a little bit anticlimactic because again, it's just like stab in the neck, done. I didn't really, you can't savor it.
No,
very well, because I think he had already killed everybody by the time I got there. Now, if I'm thinking about it, they're all kind of dead at like a table. He's obviously poisoned them, so I just snuck up behind and stabbed him. And I thought, well, that's just the most basic bitch way to play these games. It's just killed you. Whereas I wish I can't remember what the other option is for that one.
No, I can't either now.
But yeah, apparently I killed 21 people in that level.
Jesus.
So, yeah, still had low chaos at the end though.
Yeah, the powers, another one we sort of touched on. The powers
yes.
are great. You, like you're saying, you dabbled in them far more than I did, which I think I probably should have. Never possessed any rats or anything like that. That escaping as a fish is magic. That is so good.
Yeah. Oh, when I got out again, obviously I just jumped in the river and swam normally. But the first getting in as a fish, I just thought so cool because there's a little hole in the grate to get under it and everything. It's brilliant. I did like using the little rat tunnels to kind of get to different rooms in the houses as well. That was fun. But I didn't think I used them as much of the powers or the same type of powers as the first time I played it. The first time I played it, I used a lot of the slowing down time to, especially if I messed up and I got set upon by the guards, I would always use the thing to slow down time and just stab slit all their throats and stuff in slow motion, which is awesome. Really cool, like power to do it. But I didn't want to do that this time because you got me in the mindset of non-lethal, low chaos style. So I really wanted to do that as well. With that. Yeah, I didn't let it sort of take too much of a hold on me if I made a few mistakes. I was like, you know what, fuck it, people are going to die. I still have low chaos. It seemed to be, I couldn't work out if there was an algorithm or a value for who dies and how much chaos that they contribute to. I felt like normal people aren't anyway. Like if you didn't kill the main target, you were largely okay for killing anyone else.
Okay,
so you probably kill everybody else anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it was mainly just trying to avoid more rats because it shits you up, doesn't it? It's like there'll be more rats if you kill loads of people. I don't want that. Killed.
Yeah, and it kind of threw me as well. So there's like the zombie lads that run about in this game as well.
Oh, I killed every single one of them.
Yeah, that counts towards your chaos apparently as well. So I just got scared of them. And ended up just sort of running away from them for the most part. See, when you'd walk into a house and you'd be like rummaging around in the drawers, and then you just hear like one of those things going around. That genuinely like put the fear of God into me because I'm just like, oh no, there's more of them here. Because once you set one off, they'd all just come at you.
Yeah. Well, so what have we got? Let's blink. Dark vision. Yeah, I mean, I guess some purists think that kind of stuff is a more modern facet of gaming that's not appreciated all the time. That I can see through walls. X-ray vision is in so many games these days. And this one actually earns it for at least. You have got supernatural powers. Yeah. It does make sense this time around. Less so when you've got I'm an assassin, so I've got assassin's senses, which allows me to see people through fucking walls. Like, no, it doesn't. I never, ever, ever. I think because I was going the non-lethal way, I didn't use as many of these things as I probably would have done. So I didn't use the devouring swarm, which is a shame because that kind of sounds like it'd be really fun.
Yeah,
you just get small rats to eat people. Yeah, so with Possession, Bend Time, we've already talked about. Wind Blast, which is basically the Fusrodar from Skyrim.
Yeah.
Never used that. Obviously, Vitality I did. Bloodthirsty, you get like more brutal melee kill animations. Maybe that's what I was after. Maybe if I had that, then I'd have had the end of the game I so desired when I killed Havelock. And then because that would build up this adrenaline thing, which I didn't understand for ages. So maybe I did have that, but I didn't realize that I had it. Or I didn't realize how I was using it because I think it just kind of made the outside of the screen go a bit red if you had a full build up of adrenaline, and then you could do faster kills or something. I can't remember what it did, but you could kill rats to build up adrenaline.
Oh, that's right. And you could, okay. And depending on the bone charms you got, if you killed white ones, it would restore mana and stuff.
Yeah, see, I was using that for a while at the beginning because I clearly had more rats than you did. So I was going to try and make use of them. And then there's Shadow Kill as well, which is obviously the one where a really useful one if you're fucking up like I am, because that'll allow you know anyone that you kill. Well, first of all, unaware foes who are killed turn to ash so that they can't be discovered, and
excellent.
then the second version of that, anyone you kill turns to ash whether they've noticed you or not. So I did use that as well, just in case, and especially for the end of the game when I've decided I'm now murdering everybody because they made me sad.
I like that. You proper role played this game.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. What, but just a genius video game. I absolutely adore it.
The only other mission
timer
that sort of sticks out to me is the one, I think it's called the High Overseer Campbell one, where you've got to break into his building.
The first one, yeah.
And you've got, so the non-lethal kill is you brand him. So
yes, I didn't do that.
Knock him out and like basically drag him halfway across the level, put him in a chair, brand him, and then just like get out of there. So when you're following him about, he is trying to. So there's a side mission in that level where there's like I don't know if it's like a captain or like a member of his staff that's fairly high up, and the guy, High Overseer Campbell's trying to poison him. So he's like comes in and you can either switch the poison so that he poisons himself.
Yeah, that's what I did.
You can knock the glass over, which is what I did. And when you knock the glasses over, they come in and go, oh, and he's like, oh, I've got more booze in my room. Come with me. And he takes you down this like you follow him through this winding corridor and stuff like that. And he's got this like secret room that's like it's just like a wall that pulls this lever and this like wall opens and you can go into like his sex den, basically.
I knew you were going to say it was a sex den.
He's got like mattresses on the floor, and he's like, when you read the notes, he's like getting them to send servants down there and things like that. So, I just went in there and knocked him out, stole all his stuff, and branded him.
I'm not disappointed that I poisoned him then if he's a sex pest.
Yeah, and then you've got to take his mate and stick him in a bin so that he can get rescued later on.
Yeah, because that's the one that's Callista's uncle, actually, isn't it? No,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
she gets reunited with him.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I had high chaos after the first mission in the game because I killed a lot of people.
A load of people were killed.
Because it was that's the one where you can poison Slackjaw's elixir, so I went in and killed everybody in there. They were throwing with me later on when I went to go talk to Slackjaw. He's like, I heard a lot about you. It's like, oh, have you? Not from any of the people I killed last time I was here.
Did you stumble across a bit later in that level? So as you're sort of trying to get to the end of the level, you sort of leave via a different way that you came in, and you end up in like, I don't know if it's like a soldier's barracks or like the guards barracks, sort of as you're heading back towards the water at the other side, and you can sort of go through, and they've got like their bunk beds, and they've got like shower areas and like all their clothes and stuff hang up. There's like if you sneak in via the roof, there's like 3 people having a conversation, and one of them's like saying, I think I've got the plague, and he's like, do you? And then they start having a discussion about him thinking he's got the plague, and then this guy goes, you know what you've got to do, and he just turns around, and then his mate has got to kill him while they're like having this conversation, and he's like, oh, please kill me, and he's like, oh, I don't want to kill you. And so then just have this whole interaction that I just sat and watched, and it was so good. And yeah, I could have just so easily have missed it by.
I obviously did, yeah.
Either storming through, not engaging with it, or just not even hanging about, because it just seemed like such an innocuous conversation until at the end he just shoots his friend in the back of the head, and then just carries on. They just don't seem to care. Then that's funny because the game starts like showing like it's little creaky and cracks at the edges, because as soon as he kills them, there's this like poignant moment, and then they just don't give a fuck after that. They just wander off, leave the dead body.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that they're desensitized to the plague.
Yeah, true.
Its effects. Like, you know what you got to do? You got to die, and then once the job's done, it's just it's another one into the plague, isn't it? But or as you say, it's just like, get back to the animations we've coded in, please.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, overall, Dishonored, what an absolutely lovely experience that was.
Yeah.
You and I, before we moved on to Dishonored 2, moved on and did the DLC, which I think in hindsight was definitely the right thing to do, because it's actually quite a must if you want to get the full story of the game.
I think so.
The first one's Knife of Dunwall, which is where you play as Dowd, right?
Yep, and as I decided to play Dowd as Ruthless Killer, because that's what he is, so I killed everybody.
So I got a high chaos ending in that one because
me too.
I just really badly handled the first level and killed so many people in the level that it just wasn't possible for me to rescue that chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I killed so many people in that level that I don't think I killed another person for the rest of the game, and I still got a high chaos ending. Like everybody in that level died. Everything I did just went wrong, and I just played with it.
Just rolled with it, yeah, because it's not worth it when it's only a shorter bit of thing.
Yeah.
That has, for me, one of the missions. I think it's in that one. I didn't actually make any notes for this for some reason, but there's one where you've got it. There's like a real kind of pompous older bloke, and he's got his little office, and you could kind of get him arrested. So you had to like take his paperwork.
Oh, can you? Excellent.
I can't remember what he had paperwork for. Maybe that he's just allowed wherever he was. I think he had like the deeds to the house or whatever, so you could kind of steal it from him, and then you could go down into the basement and put some like rotting shit in his air filter system, so that everybody
I know
is
what you
kind
mean.
of grossed out, and then he like leaves the front of the building because it's so disgusting. But and then he gets arrested while he does that, and you're kind of you're watching him from the roof with your little mate. That was one of the coolest setups, I think, for the non-lethal in all of the games.
Yeah, that was excellent, that one, because that's the same one as well. Like you can sort of watch him have a conversation again. Sex pest. Watch him have a conversation with one of his maids, and he's like, "Oh, you should stay over," and she's like, "Oh no, I want to go home with my husband." And he basically just like coerces her into staying over, and then you absolutely fuck him up. And later on. In the next DLC, you find him in prison. You know, like when you're busting the Brigmore witches out, he's in one of the cells and will start shouting if he sees you walking about, which I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah, because you play his dad twice, right?
Yeah,
right?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I killed Billy at the end of the whole thing because I'd obviously done too much nefarious shit that
I had to kill her as well.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense for the rest of the games.
For the entire sequel,
given that she's a main character in it. But hey, never mind. The DLC is very good. The Brigmore, the Dowd stuff. What did you think about the Dowd sort of story in that he's almost feeling bad for having killed an empress? Like it just didn't ring true to me because
you were not pleased with having to try and take control of this character and find him likable when he's the whole reason that any of the games exist. Yeah,
I just found it also quite. He's basically a man that has created his entire life being a hired killer, and then all of a sudden he's got this like bout of I keep saying the wrong word, bout of conscience because
crisis of
and it's just it makes no sense to me.
I suppose if you. This has to have been easily the biggest target he'll have ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And how soon before he kills the Empress does he get the outsider talking to him? Is it after he's done? No, because he uses the powers to get there, doesn't he?
Yes.
So I can't remember how long before that does the outsider kind of do this, and maybe that part of
or does the outsider come to him afterwards because the outsider says you've set this in motion, you can't change what's about to happen, like intimating that you're going to die. And he's like, but I can help you either make things right or like minimize the damage or something, and he starts leading you on a mission to figure out who will become the main enemy in Dishonored 2. You've got to go and investigate a boat, and then it sort of leads you around.
Just trying to find out what we're missing here.
Yeah, probably be helpful.
No, yeah, so he was basically but I don't really understand how, but he attracted the attention of the outsider who marked him in 1820, and then that's how he became this infamous assassin for hire, because he had all these magic powers. So he had already
right, okay.
he had already got the Outsiders powers by that point, and then then he kills the Empress, and then the Outsider kind of gives him shit for it at that point, and he's racked with guilt.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Yeah, a mostly fun DLC from a gameplay perspective. I think in hindsight, it's quite fun to have played with Dowd, because I like the way that this game and its DLCs will sort of force you into playing different characters, and they are recurring throughout the game, whether you play them or not. Like Dowd is basically almost if not in the game, he's certainly a sort of presence throughout all the games, even the third sort of expansion game, which I quite like.
Yeah, and I like how this one obviously sets up Delilah.
Yes,
for the sequel, which is kind of hard to tell if a lot of these things were with sequel in mind, because as we've said, the continuity of the endings of some of these things don't necessarily tie into the sequel as neatly as I would have hoped, but maybe they didn't expect that they were going to do one. So
no, apparently it was meant to be a standalone game that was then so successful they made some DLC for it, retconned some things, and then obviously retconned a whole bunch of things for the follow-up game. Which kind of makes it make sense, doesn't it? Because it just was never meant to be the series it became. But I think for the most part, most of the time it works fine for me. I don't know if you think the same. Yeah,
it's fine. But as you say, the DLC, I thought it was really good. He has some cool powers as well.
Yep.
And the only thing I didn't like about it is the fucking witches, because I hate witches in these games. They're the ones that get killed by me as well. They're so annoying. Did he have any extra different powers?
Sure.
He could summon assassins, which never seemed to work out the way I would have wanted it to.
I never did it.
I try and so I use the summon assassin quite a lot. You could upgrade it from a novice assassin to a master assassin. It's supposed to fight by your side. So I kept trying to do it like I'd be standing up somewhere and think like, right, I'm going to make my assassin, I'm going to summon an assassin, and he's going to just kill that guy for me. But the assassin would always shoot them with their little like arm cannon thing, the little bolt gun, and never kill them. I was like, why aren't you just going up behind them? Because I'd purposely wait until the target was looking away, make the assassin come up behind him so that I would expect him to just go up and slit his throat, but he would always just stand there and go put and shoot him, and then the guy would turn around and have a sword fight. I was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to assassinate him, not fight him, fuck's sake. Other than that, it doesn't look like he had anything additional to that. A lot of it's just the same stuff, pulling items towards him, bloodthirsty, agility, shadow kills, turning people to ash again. But and it's just assassins can then teleport, and they could use bend time and shadow kill and stuff like that if you did the arcane bond stuff. So basically, that he had the same powers of Corvo, but also he can summon assassins.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The Brigmore Witches DLC, apparently this is the fourth and final DLC. It concludes Dowd's adventures that begun in Knife of Dunwall. Apparently it carries over your existing Chaos levels, powers, weapons, and upgrades from the previous DLC, which is great. Having uncovered the mystery and incurred the wrath of the notorious witch Delilah Copperspoon, Dowd pursues her to disrupt a final ritual that will spell his doom. Warring gangs, the Dead Eels and the Hatters appear in the DLC to assist Dowd in his efforts to reach Delilah. The DLC also features Dowd's final confrontation with Corvo Attano, which is great and generally well done.
Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose moves us on to Dishonored 2, which I think is probably objectively the better game in almost every way, I would say. It's more
I agree.
Complete. The levels are bigger. The levels are more in depth. There's more to do. Like you spend a sort of, and maybe this isn't fair, but it feels like you would sort of go into in Dishonored 1, you would go into a mission that was a reasonable size, complete the mission, then you'd move on to the next one. Whereas Dishonored 2 felt like the levels were much grander in scale, and you had to do much more in them. So if I'm remembering correctly, this is where they started like really looking at like side missions and things like that. So you could like, there's the first big area where you meet the wifey who has had her appears to be some sort of boyfriend killed by one of the guards, and you've got to go and get his body and bring it back to her so she can bury him, and then she will open up like a different route into the next part of the level, stuff like that.
You also always seem to have to get to where you were.
Yes, it was
the journey to get
mission.
to the area that the assassination is going to take place in, or whatever, which would always be massive anyway.
Yeah,
you'd have like these huge like open areas outside before you even got to them. Sort of navigate.
I absolutely loved that, because you would, like, when you sort of turned up in your new area, you basically traversed the city to get to this sort of train point that would then take you to the island that you would then, it was like in a sort of an abandoned hospital or something where you were trying to get stuff.
Yeah.
Exploring that hospital was amazing. I just thought it was such an eerie place, and I just loved every bit of that. But yeah, I assume you agree that, like you're saying, that Dishonored 2 is probably the better game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I didn't expect this one, right?
I didn't expect. No, I basically started and done the Good Doctor, and again, I must have jumped onto something else when did it come out?
2016.
2016. Yeah, maybe I picked up Doom or something after that and was like, hey, and then just carried on never getting back to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I obviously now, well, do I regret it? I don't know. I've played it now, so.
Yeah, you got there in the end.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, it's definitely, it's just got a lot more invention in the levels. A lot more high concept shit going on in this. I don't want to keep repeating these types of things, but again, it feels like it has that kind of game jam feel to each level, where it's like, okay, what's the gimmick going to be this time? The real Titanfall 2 kind of shit, where they're going to think of a new high concept idea for each kind of main level, things like the Clockwork Mansion or the crack in the slab where you get the timepiece, which we'll get onto, I suppose, in more detail later. Just stuff like that is just real special moments in a game that you just sort of stay with you for a really, really long time, because you've never experienced anything like it. Or in this case, you have experienced things like it with things like Titanfall 2. We're like, you can manipulate time and stuff, but for me, this did it far better.
That level is impeccable. It's almost one of the best levels, I think, in video games, full stop. It is just for those that haven't played it, I guess, do you want to explain it, Alex? You're probably going to be more succinct than
you don't actually get to use your normal powers in that level. It's kind of, there's some sort of aura that's around the place that kind of stops you from being able to do the usual blinking, seeing through walls kind of stuff. So it kind of feels like at first that you're going to be really underpowered and struggle to actually get what you need to get done, and you're going to be really at a disadvantage. But you then end up getting this timepiece, which allows you to switch between two different time periods, but you can also it's got like a mirror function to it that you could kind of hold up in front of your character's face and see the other time period in that small little thing in the timepiece itself. And that would allow you to kind of see the reactions to what you'd just done in that previous time period, and see how you could then manipulate it even more to kind of reposition yourself to where you're going to come back to that time period again. And I absolutely loved it. Like, I wasn't going to kill anybody because I was trying to get, again, sort of low chaos, the whole thing. But I almost wanted to be seen. Like, I didn't want to do it ghost, because I much preferred being in an area, choking someone out and seeing the guards get alerted to it, them all running at me and me just switching to the other time period. And you could see them in the timepiece running around, like losing their minds, like searching for places, like turning around, swiveling about, like, where the fuck have you gone? So you could kind of wait for them to try and figure out what was going on and just sneak behind them and choke them out too. And just seeing what was unfurling with these headless chickens running around before you pop up and pick them out again was just brilliant. It was genius. I enjoyed it so much. It's some of the most fun I've had in years in any game. I was giggling with glee at just being a prick and just like mugging everyone off. It was so fun.
Yeah, you're right. It's so well done. And the way, just even the start of that game, I thought it felt, the start of that level, sorry, it felt like a horror game to me. I think I was texting you about this, and it was like
the weird bloke with his little piano on his own.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so bad, and I was like creeping around, and then the sort of the feel of the level completely switches when you get that timepiece, and you just realize what you can do and how impeccable it is. Like the loading is basically non-existent. It must have two versions of the level just operating at the same time, and you're just clicking between them. I can't even think how they've done that so well. But yeah,
and you think how much the Medium tried to bang on about how good they were for doing that side by side. This game does it way more sophisticated, way earlier as well on a previous console generation. I can't say the fact that it, like, as I said, it underpowers you, or at least you think it's underpowered you, but then it actually overpowers you the most you will ever be in the game, and then takes it away in a believable way, because you're not in that area, in that house with that aura about it anymore. So it just doesn't work anymore, which is just absolutely phenomenal.
You sort of touched on it, but even like how you can manipulate the game in the different time periods, and it reflects itself in the one that you follow back on. So there's like the example that sticks in my head is there's a room you go in that's got a safe, and the safe is all overgrown by this the blood fly stuff and then there's like dead animals and stuff in there. If you can go back into the past and clear that area, because you can find a note that says, don't forget to clear this area because it looks like there's blood flies coming. You could go and then it obviously didn't get cleared, and it just like sort of like chokes up the area. You can go and clean the blood flies out, and then when you go back to the future or the present day, the blood fly infestation never came, and it gives you access to the safe and the stuff inside the safe that you couldn't have done without doing that, which I just think is so smartly done.
Yeah, it's not just a tool to manipulate the AI characters. The whole level is built around puzzles that can come from rewarding you for using the time manipulation to figure things out. There's another one where some guards have stashed some stuff, haven't they? They stash a bone charm or a rune or something, and they have like a little wheel that you need to turn off is it to lower a water level in like a little hole in the wall that they've hidden it in? So you kind of have to like take them out, grab the wheel off them, and throw it through the hole, and then you can go back and pick it up in the hole and use it on the valve inside to lower the water level that you can't do unless you can get the little wheel thing in there. Like I've done a terrible job explaining that, but just that it's always cool when a game kind of mucks about with time manipulation.
And just does it so well, because I think it's quite a hard thing to do. The other one that I would like to sort of see in hindsight and see how good it stands up is Singularity is another game that messes with it in a similar way that I would like to go and poke at and see how that holds up. I
did start that a while ago, but I found that that on PC the doesn't have controller support, and I cannot use mouse and keyboard, so I tried to sort of remap the little thing, the Steam overlay thing that lets you kind of remap stuff onto a controller, but the fact that it was trying to remap a mouse movement onto the right
feels quite right, does it?
Horrible.
That's how
so I have now got it on my 360, so I might just brave the 30 FPS and load
see
times and just give it a go. You played as Corvo, I played as Emily.
Yeah,
feels like it's definitely Emily's game.
Yeah, it felt like that was the right thing to do. I'm interested to see, is there any sort of standout moments in doing that you can remember interacting with? So like the thing that I guess you wouldn't have got is when you rescue Sokolov and you bring him back to the ship, you get a big speech about their younger days and how he remembers you being an old friend and stuff like that. And I think it's quite a nice poignant moment.
Provided you didn't use rat torture on him in the original game.
that is a good point.
I remember when you bribed me was a much nicer thing for him to remember in mind.
is there any standout moments with that? Like, was it weird interacting with characters? Because not weird, but I guess what I'm getting at is there's a lot of characters that you're interacting with throughout the game that Corvo has a relationship with, and that's quite well represented. How did they do that with Emily, or did they just sort of brush over it?
Trying to think of things specifically that would have related to her, because obviously I do remember Sokolov and being the, oh well, this is a Corvo thing. Emily's not good. Well, I suppose Emily was around with him as well, wasn't she? Because they were all in the pub at some point.
Yeah,
so
that's true. So he probably did. He would have known her. Yeah, that's true.
So I think he's kind of served as like a kind of. She definitely has a history with him as well. She like remembers him very fondly or whatever, and he wants to protect her, and he's very like fatherly towards her in this. I don't know. Maybe I just again sort of role played it and took it personally. Like, the first mission I killed Ramsey for definite. He was always going to die because he deserved it.
I locked him in a panic room.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So you can take him. You take him upstairs, and there's like because he nicks a ring off you, which apparently is the way they access the panic room, which must have been how you exited the level anyway. So you must have got it back off him. You can knock him out and take him into the panic room and just lock him in there, and he can't get out for the whole game. So the whole time you're playing that game, he's just in this room, not able to get out, which I thought was quite funny.
I can't put my finger on anything specifically that felt like I don't know how they would have done this with Corvo kind of thing. Because I guess the setup is basically you get fucked with by Delilah. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it's very obviously set up that Delilah's dicked you both over at the beginning, and whoever you play as, the other one is frozen. So there's a reason. Han soloed in Carbonite, so there's always a reason that you want to get your revenge on her. That's for sure.
So part of the reason I picked Corvo was I was reading about the differences between the characters, and apparently and I'm interested in your view on this. The Corvo what I read, he's like just plays like Corvo from the first game, which was like great.
Yeah.
Emily apparently is a lot more combat focused. Did you find that, or is that not true? Like apparently, her powers are more lend themselves better to combat.
I mean, you could kind of. Could kind of use them for that if that's what you were wanting. She definitely had like ways to manipulate the AI that will allow you to kind of attract them to a certain place, or summon doppelgangers that will fight for you. So those kind of things felt like, you've got no choice, but people are going to start dying rather than being choked out if I do it this way. So and her She had what was her one called? It's called Far Reach rather than Blink. So her thing of like, the teleport mechanic was slightly different to Corvo in a way that took a lot of getting used to. It's more like an arc that
interesting.
Have a bending arrow that you'd have to kind of land somewhere rather than Corvo's kind of hit scan, for want of a better phrase. I really liked Emily. She had this thing called Shadow Walk, where you were like a stealthier form, so you basically just become this shadow that creeps along the ground. Cool. You could effectively just crawl in right in front of an enemy if you didn't get too close. You could just walk through rooms without anyone really seeing you. And you could eventually upgrade it enough times that you could incapacitate like 3 enemies in that state as well. And she would like these kind of big shadowy arms would kind of grab them and like take them out on the ground and choke them out. So you could really quickly clear out a room. I think it's the only way I managed to get past that one level where the arc pylon was bugged, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yes. What did you think of that level in general?
Oh, the Clockwork Mansion.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah,
I loved that. Yeah.
Again, talking about the gimmicks, like this just sort of does this really, it just feels like such a confident game in that it just like picks up these really unique ideas for levels, will let you do them, and then just instantly moves on and doesn't touch it again.
This felt like it probably influenced some parts of Prey as well, because the way that the house would kind of move around you and sort of remanipulate itself to open up different routes and different configurations of rooms.
Yeah,
that felt like, because when Prey, you're in that initial part, you've got all that. You're seeing all like these simulations around you, all behind the walls is actual different types of buildings behind you. So I thought like that kind of felt like Prey to me. And I really liked the way that you can take Jindosh out at the end as well by like strapping him to that seat and zapping his brain so he just doesn't remember anything he's ever done. He just becomes almost a vegetable at that point. But yeah, that level, unfortunately for me, the one problem with it was that there's a bug that is quite prevalently talked about on Reddit, but not clearly has never been addressed by the developers or any of the reviews, where you can there's an arc pylon in the middle of one of the most central room in the entire mansion that you have to go through a lot of times. I took the oil tank out. The voiceover, the Jindosh, the target of this specific level, who's built this mansion, he's talking to you and taunting you throughout. He's kind of watching what's going on.
Yeah.
And he even said the voice line, "You've powered down my arc pylon," but every time I went near it, it would murder me. And instantly, even though I turned it off, there was no power to it. So taking the bit where you've got to take Sokolov back, you got to carry him. I had to go the longest route possible around that level to take him back, rather than just being able to cut straight through the central part because I would have immediately died. Which is a shame that there's a bug in there, because otherwise that level is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's very clever.
Good. Even just trying to get into where Sokolov is, it's like you're like pulling levers to make walls go up and down, and because
there's one of those robot things kind of patrolling in between it. Yeah,
I like the introduction to those robot things, because I guess like as a sort of slight criticism to the first game, because I was so hell bent on not killing things, there was a lot of the gameplay mechanics that I never engaged with. Like I just didn't really use any of the guns that's in the game or anything like that would encourage you to kill someone. The introduction of the robots allowed me to explore the different mechanics related to killing things in a way that I just didn't in the first game, which I quite enjoyed. Like I was using grenades and stuff in this game, which I just...
Yeah, that was really useful against them.
I just never touched anything like that in the previous one. So yeah, I thought it was a smart move to allow you to, like I say, just poke at the edges of what the different options of gameplay styles were with that game.
Yeah, I quite liked their stupid voices. It wasn't obviously their voice, but it was almost like every single one of them was still in like beta phase, where Jindosh is his voice is coming out of the robot. So if they saw you, it would just be him kind of in his like testing mode of like the robot's making a noise to indicate they've found someone. Now they're indicating that they're in an alert mode and stuff. It's just I quite liked how shitty they sounded walking about like that. And there were a couple of upgrades you could get. There was one that I got where it would like your sword would do greater damage to the robots, which allowed me to kill them a lot easier by the end. But I liked how you could take their head off and therefore they couldn't see you anymore. So they would still kind of walk about and still be a threat, but they don't know where you are. So you kind of you could at least get away with not being seen, because they could see behind themselves as well, which made them impossible to sneak up on. So they were really terrifying. They were a really terrifying enemy that I felt, at least, again, if you got caught by them or whatever, you weren't necessarily totally fucked. They were tough. They were really tough. But compared to those tall boy walking things in the first game, like they were just instant kills. Like you had no chance if one of them found you. So I preferred these.
With those robots things, you would sort of... I found them better to handle when you were choosing when you were coming up against them, if that makes sense. So like you would sort of avoid, and then if you could sort of manipulate an encounter, you're like, right, I've got to take them on here. I would then sort of set myself up and get myself ready for it. Whereas like, if I got ambushed by them, I was in a whole lot of trouble a lot of the time.
You could block their attacks if they were in a close quarters with you. I found them easier to deal with because you could block their sword attacks and parry them. Whereas if they were chasing you around a larger area, they had lasers or whatever it was to shoot at you, and I found I had no chance at that point.
I ended up killing so I reloaded the save so that I could zap his mind away. But the first time I did that level, I got to is it Jindosh? Did you say at the end? And I don't know what I did, but I damaged one of those robots in some way, and it just went mental, ran into the room and killed him. I don't know if I'd like...
That's great.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd done, but I was fighting it, and then all of a sudden it just turned around and sprinted into the room and murdered Jindosh, which I thought was fantastic. I almost left it because this is just so good, but I wanted to see what happened when you zapped his brain away, because I thought that was quite a fun one. The other ending to that one that I really liked is sort of at the ending when you're is it the Duke? You're sort of, and he's got his body double.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, he was always going to die again. He's the one I had marked for death. Like the rest of them, if they're kind of like an ancillary character or they're just part of the scheme, whatever. But you specifically did that shit to me right at the beginning. You are dead.
You are getting it.
Yeah. So yeah, what did you do?
Yeah, so you can sort of obviously when you start the level, you get sort of clues into obviously there's going to be two Dukes going about, and it's like you can work out who is, and it like tells you things like one of them's nicer to staff or one of them's not nice to staff, and then it's like the body double's a smoker, so you've got to like find them both, figure out which one is the body double, and then you make contact with him and speak to him, and he's like, right, I know how to do this. He's got this coin on him that he shows his guards that he's the real one. I need you to go and steal the coin off him, give it to me, and then I'll sort it. So then you go and you basically go find him, steal the coin, and then what you do then after that, so you've stolen the coin, is you knock the guy out, the real one out, and you put him on the bed. Like, and then the fake one comes in and pretends that he's got drunk and just started taking advantage of him. He's like, "Oh, take him to prison." And the guy's like, "No, I'm the real one." He's like, "No, he's lying." Like, here's the coin. Then they take him off to prison. So yeah, he ends up in a prison, which is great.
That's cool. I couldn't even find that guy in mine. I had no idea where. I just that level is absolutely enormous. I found myself like running around on the roof of that palace quite a lot. Like that's that gave me kind of from the brief periods I've played of it, that the sort of aesthetic style of that palace made me think a little bit of Deathloop from what I'd played of it. Kind of had that sort of weird visual style to the decor and the architecture. Yeah, I couldn't even find his body double, so I just looked in a room and saw him walking about not smoking because the body double's a smoker and he isn't. So I thought, I've watched you for 5 minutes and you haven't smoked. Now I'm going to stab you.
That's another example. So the location of the two characters, both the real one and the body double, moves around and they do different things. So again, if you were to do multiple playthroughs, what happened in your previous game wouldn't necessarily happen again. So you do have to sit and work it out, which I thought was great. The other thing the game does is a lot of the time it'll mix up save codes. So you can't just look up a guide, get all the safe codes and open them up. It like changes about the place, which I thought was, I don't know, it was quite smart. I quite like that. The fact that
I always like that kind of stuff. Even, I mean, you can still look up a guide to kind of figure out how to get the code if you're that stuck. But yeah, or you can do stuff like I did with the. Isn't there was one where you can find out a sort of a password to get into the back room of where the black market seller is.
Yes.
You can trick him to open the door. And then I didn't really know what to do because he kind of started cowering when I went in there.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'm going to have to steal all your shit now. Clearly, that's what you're expecting. There was one cool effect that I struggled to get to use a lot. Emily's got this domino effect where you can kind of like, you hold the left trigger down and it will select like an enemy and you can kind of like drag your crosshair to another enemy and up to 3 or 4, I think, by the end. And then anything you do to one of them will happen to all of them. I found that really tricky to actually get to work properly. So I think maybe it doesn't have a lot of distance. Yeah, one sleep dart, they'd all fall asleep immediately.
I like that.
Yeah, it was really cool, but I think maybe I just misunderstood its range because I kept trying to like drag across to other enemies. It just was doing nothing. There's no like visible indicator or even tangible on the controller that you're doing anything. So it's only in that last couple of missions that I actually managed to start using that properly, and that was really helpful to just get rooms dealt with nice and quick. Just there you go, 1, 2, 3, click, bang, done, run through.
Did you know
that was good?
Billy Lurk was Billy Lurk? Did that reveal work for you?
Well, I didn't know that's who it was, so it worked in the sense that I hadn't figured that out. Didn't work in the sense that I killed her in the DLC, so I was like, oh, come on.
How are you not alive? That's another thing the game does that I never realized. So if you do if there's a certain end, I think it's whatever the good ending is, the non-lethal ending, during the timepiece level, Billy Lurk gets her hands and eyes back that I just didn't notice at any point.
I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that either. I'm so annoyed that I didn't.
Because I was playing it and obviously it must have happened at some point. She just grew them back. And then when you start the Death of the Outsider game, obviously it takes the ending it picks is the non-lethal stuff. So she's got eyes in her 2 arms. I was like, okay, so this game must be set before she loses her arm, because she even says at the beginning that she keeps having dreams about her getting her arm chopped off and someone stabbing her in the eye. And then I was like, and then I looked up and it was like, it's set after Dishonored 2, and I was like, but why have I got 2 arms then? And then I had to dig about, and apparently at some point she just must have grown her arm back, and I just completely passed me by that.
Same, because I could swear in the cutscene where she explains who she is that she still didn't have that, and that's after that crack in the slab. So I don't know.
That's
weird.
Funny. Let's do a quick. I'll do a quick, as possible, rundown of the Dishonored 2 story.
Okay. Yeah.
While players begin and end the game in Dunwall, much of the story takes place in the coastal city of a place called Karnaca, the capital of Serkanos, that lies along the southern region of the Empire of the Isles, whose chief exports include silver. Unlike Dunwall, which relied on whale oil for power, Karnaca is powered by wind turbines fed by currents generated by a cleft mountain along the city's borders, though the winds that blow over and into the city cause it to be rife with dust storms.
I enjoyed that level as well, actually. Yes. Yeah, where you could wait till the dust was kicking up and then cause some shit and then run away again once the dust disperses. That's cool.
This most notably takes place within the mining district, which led it to be known as the Dust District. At the time the game begins, 2 factions, the Howlers and the Overseers, engage in violent conflict within the district, with the Howlers seeking to oppose the new Duke and his government following the passing of its previous Duke, leading to the Grand Circling Guard Karnaca's law enforcement and military, erecting defensive barriers called Walls of Light in response to the disarray. The game set 50...
Yeah, I sided with those guards when I had the choice, and I kind of wish that I didn't now, thinking about what they actually represented versus
I don't know what I did. What was the choice that you had? What happened there?
I can't remember what level it is now, but there's one where you get to like take something and then give it to one of those 2 factions, and whichever one you do basically ends up running things at the end of the game.
I sent them
so
both
they
away.
restored law and order for me, but you didn't help either of them.
No, you can knock them both out and stick them in coffins and send them away. Which is what I did. Because I initially tried to... So I ended up giving up and just taking down the policeman because the gang member bugged for me. So when you encounter the gang member in that level, he's downstairs in a chair while there's like 2 gang members dancing on a table and someone's playing music. And at some point he stands up and walks upstairs, and that's when you can interact with him. He just didn't go upstairs for me whatsoever. So I was like, oh, well, that's done. But yeah, I had to go back and just basically lob a grenade in there to sort of break whatever was making him stuck. And then he started chasing me for a while. And then when he goes back, he sort of went back to his old pattern. So yeah, that worked for me slightly.
Speaking of the Dust District, actually, there's a guy that you know, Paolo. He's like, I think he's the target in that one.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Pretty sure. There was he's in a previous level as well.
Is he?
I can't remember which one it is, but there's one where you go to a black market seller and Paolo comes in and starts like trying to shake him down and like talking to him,
like,
threatening him.
Is that Paolo? Is it?
Yeah, and then he goes outside, and I walked out of the black market, walked down and saw Paolo with his 2 little mates, and I walked towards him. He basically tells you to fuck off, and in that. When I first saw him, I think I walked away either too slowly or still looking at him. So they never de-aggroed and just like, because they were like, you better walk away or you're in trouble. So I sort of walked too slowly, and then they just ran at me and killed me anyway.
Oh my God.
So I thought, right, if I see you again, boy. And when I did, old rat man was like, you're dying now because you pissed me off earlier. I was trying to walk away.
Alex's rules of engagement, you're in trouble, friend. That's it. Game over for you.
Can't be non-lethal every time, especially if I've been personally slighted by the target.
I was trying to remember. There was one where the guards are walking around, and then there's like in that area there's like a crossover. So there's like a guard area, and then there's like the gang area. And I was getting chased by the guards.
Oh yeah,
and I just legged it, and I like ran through this door and realized that I'd walked into a door that was just full of gang members. And I was like, oh, and then they aggroed, and then I just blinked onto the roof, and then just like walked over, and the guards ran in, and it just started an absolute brawl between them, and they just murdered.
Oh, that's brilliant!
And they just murdered
That is
each other. There was like one person left alive at the end, and then I jumped down and accidentally set her on fire, but I don't remember how I set her on fire. But I was just like, oh well, she's dead.
Yeah, everything these games let you do is kind of what BioShock tried to promise us. Wasn't it? Like, all these ways you can manipulate all the enemies and turn them against each other. This game is actually delivering on that.
Yeah, it was so accidental as well, but it just like caused so much carnage, and
that's
I was like, this is so good. You couldn't, like, if that was scripted, it wouldn't have been nearly as effective. It was just because I sort of stumbled into that by accident. It just made it so
I love that room full of goons that you've walked in on by accident. That's really good.
The other thing that game is, the only way to deal with blood flies is just don't treat them in any respect. Sprint at them, waving your sword. Yeah,
they don't do enough damage to worry about. No. That was another thing that I would much prefer to take them, because I eventually get, if you hit all their little nest things, you get something that basically gives you money out of it. That versus the rats in Dishonored 2, they're not a problem. They don't attack you anymore. No. That's just not a thing. So I'd much rather deal with the boat flies or whatever they are. I think that's from Fallout. Whatever they're, blood flies. There we go. I'd much rather deal with them than the rats. The rats were a pain in the arse. These ones are just shit.
Especially there's the rats when we never spoke about it, how you could also in certain instances manipulate the rats. So like if you found a dead body, you could chuck the body in the ground. The rats would go for the body and it would allow you to escape, which I thought was very well done. Yeah,
and also it would obviously stop that body being found by guards and everything as well.
The Dishonored 2 set 15 years after the events of the first game. Seemingly Dunwall has prospered under Emily's reign. You quickly learn about a serial killer known as the Crown Killer that appears to be attempting to sow discord amongst the regime by killing off dissenting voices in an attempt to make it look like Corvo has been killing people who speak out against the Empress. During a ceremony in remembrance of Jessamine Caldwin's assassination, Duke Luca Abel of Serkonos arrives with the witch Delilah Copperspoon from the DLC. Delilah claims to be Jessamine's half sister and the true heir to the throne. The Duke's men attack, killing Emily's men. The player then chooses which player who they want to continue playing as, Emily or Corvo, and the character not chosen is magically turned to stone by Delilah. After this, the player is forced to escape Dunwall via a ship known as the Dreadful Whale, owned by Anton Sokolov, again from the first game, and Megan Foster, or Megan, that's how Americans say it, isn't it? Who will turn out to be Billy Lurk, who betrayed Dowd in the first game's DLC. The player escapes to Dunwall docks, where Megan Foster's waiting. Megan is sent by Anton Sokolov to warn Emily, as I said, and Corvo about the Duke's coup. They obviously missed. They sail for Karnaca, where Delilah began her rise to power. During the voyage, the player is visited by the Outsider, who offers them supernatural powers and instructs them to stop Delilah. Arriving in Karnaca, the player is tasked with rescuing Sokolov first off, who was kidnapped by the Crown Killer. I'll tell you that. See, when you find out who the Crown Killer is, that sort of fight is terrifying. When you see someone getting thrown through a window, oh my god.
She is horrifying. Yeah.
Did you kill her, or did you take her back to the boat?
In the boat. Can you take her back to the boat?
Yeah, she lives on your boat for a while and gives you some gifts.
Oh, maybe she does. But yeah, I did the thing where I used some serum to make her not the Crown Killer anymore anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must have forgot she came back on the boat.
So kidnapped by the Crown Killer, infiltrating the Adermeyer Institute, which was spoken about, where the Crown Killer is reportedly hiding out. The player discovers that the Crown Killer is the alter ego of Karnaca's chief alchemist, Alexandria Hypatia. Hypatia accidentally created the Crown Killer persona when she tested an experimental serum on herself, and the Duke then exploited this to frame Emily. The killer either kills Hypatia or cures her condition, which seems to be what we both did. Investigating Adermeyer, it is revealed that Sokolov was imprisoned by Jindosh, the Duke's grand inventor. The player, which was spoken about, Jindosh's clockwork mansion. The player enters Jindosh's clockwork mansion, kills him or performs an electrical lobotomy on him and frees Sokolov. Sokolov directs the player to eliminate Brianna Ashworth, the curator of the Royal Conservatory and witch working for Delilah. The player enters the Royal Conservatory and discovers that Ashworth brought Delilah back from the void after her defeat at the hands of Dowd, because you'd lock her in a painting at the end of the second DLC. The assassin who killed Emily's mother. Ashworth is either killed or has her powers removed.
Oh, that's right. I didn't actually finish the second DLC, did I? Because it just kept crashing the game.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I can't remember what I was in the mansion where the witches are or whatever it was. Right, I was just about to go up to Delilah's painting or whatever, and then it just kept. I couldn't even load the game after that. After a while, like it just crashed as soon as it got to the menu.
Yeah, so the non-lethal ending to that is you lock her in a painting, basically, which she obviously manages to get herself out of. And then when you
go up, to be locked in a painting again. It's on the two,
yeah. When you choke Emily out, when you try and choke the witch out, Delilah, she sprouts into 4 versions of herself. So you've got to then go and hunt each one down, and then stick her on a table and perform a ritual, which then sucks her into the painting. End of DLC. With Delilah being too powerful to beat conventionally, Sokolov suggests the player investigate the home of mining magnate Aramis Stilton. Upon entering Stilton's mansion, the player discovers that he had gone insane after witnessing Delilah's resurrection. With the aid of the outsider, the player travels back in time and observes the crown killer, Jindosh Ashworth, and the Duke pull Delilah from the void. Afterward, Delilah siphons part of her soul into a statue, making her immortal. The player invades the Duke's palace to eliminate him and retrieve Delilah's soul. After either killing the Duke or working with his body double to depose him, the player finds the statue and extracts Delilah's soul. The player then returns to Dunwall for a final confrontation with Delilah. After reuniting Delilah with her soul, the player may choose to kill Delilah or trick her into trapping herself inside her own painting. I liked that boss fight at the end where she was... Did you do that? I guess you probably did. So you go into an area and there's like lots of statues of her.
Yeah, and I died a fair few times on that, and I redid this as well because the first time around I did it non-lethal, and then I thought that's not good enough. Like that's the one time I felt it didn't serve the game right to let her think that she's won and let her think she's ruling over all these people, even though I know she's in a painting. She probably doesn't. So fuck it. I went back and reloaded the save and killed her because that felt better as judgment for me. But because I did it so many times, I kind of realized after a while that I could actually go up and take out some of the doubles before aggroing her. You could go around the arena and kind of sneak up because they're all stood there. There's all these like statues of people in stone kind of watching her sit on the throne. You could see them that they were clearly her in the midst of all these people. So you could go up and like take them out, like stab them all in the throat before the fight started, and it would end up with her only having like 2 or 3 of them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Because I was trying to choke them out, and that was just aggroing her to come and kill me.
Yeah, I don't know how I managed to do it. I did it really sneakily that I managed to like take them out. Like I think I got to 4 at one point where I managed to take 4 of them out before she noticed what I was doing.
I like that.
Yeah.
So as with the first game, there's multiple endings based on whether the player caused high chaos by indiscriminate murder or achieved lower chaos by refraining from taking lives. These endings are also dependent on who the player killed or spared and which factions, if any, they sided with. So in the high chaos ending, the player is faced with the choice of freeing Emily/Corvo from the petrification or leaving them that way. Why would you leave them that way? If
that's mad.
If Emily's is not left in stone, she becomes a vengeful empress and brutally purges Delilah's supporters. If Corvo leaves Emily petrified, he takes the throne himself and becomes a brutal tyrant known as Emperor Corvo the Black.
Oh, I like that. Yes. That's pretty funny.
Karnaca is either ruled by a new tyrant or collapses into anarchy, and if alive, Sokolov becomes a broken man after witnesses the perversion of his work and is exiled to his home country. In the low chaos ending, the player frees Emily/Corvo from their imprisonment. A council of representatives, or optionally Corvo, who can make himself the new duke, takes charge in Karnaca and brings the city back from the brink. Emily becomes a fair and just ruler, reuniting the empire. Sokolov, proud to see his work used for good, returns to his home country to spend his last days in comfort. In either ending, if Megan survives, she is revealed to be Billy Lurk and leaves to search for Dowd, leading to the Dishonored Death of the Outsider expansion. So for me, Corvo just stayed by her side because obviously I had a Duke in Karnaka. So yeah, he just stayed with Emily.
Yeah, I think he became the Duke for me then, alongside her as the Empress.
Excellent. I like the sound of that one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this game's probably better in every way. With the first one, that doesn't take anything away from the first game, which is a.
They're both 10s.
They're both 10s. Yes, exactly. This probably is an absolute masterpiece, and it's a shame that. I assume it didn't sell well enough to make another one.
Yeah, of course.
Which is a real shame.
I'd imagine not. It's quite an early PS4 game, wasn't it? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I said, the design of the world is very nearly perfect, and I just loved it, every minute of it.
Yeah, I think it had a lot of technical issues when it came out, so I think that probably didn't help it. I think the PC version especially had a lot of problems with it when it first came out, so it's taken them a while to kind of fix all of that. But
it's a real shame the first Dishonored's got the FPS boost, and the second game, although people seem to say it does not.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And the Microsoft Store page for the Death of the Outsider specifically says FPS boost is one of its features, and then once you start playing it doesn't have it.
It's not. It's definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
It's just lying.
Yeah.
Got to play those on PC, boys, if you're playing them.
You do.
And the Death of the Outsider, it's the only way.
So for Death of the Outsider, this is the final piece of content that we've received to date for Dishonored, and takes place immediately following the events of Dishonored 2 that was spoken about. So after the events of Dishonored 2, Emily Caldwin, as we said, is reinstated as Empress and begins to salvage the empire previously broken by Delilah's rule. Billy Lurk wakes aboard her ship, the Dreadful Whale, having a recurring nightmare regarding her right arm and eye. Billy has tracked down her old mentor Dowd's whereabouts to a boxing club in the Albarca Baths. She makes her way there, finding that the boxing club is run by a void-worshipping cult called Eyeless, and he's sort of been held captive. Billy witnesses Dowd restrained by a device that cancels out his supernatural powers. She disables the device, freeing Dowd. Dowd is happy to see Billy and asks her for her help in killing the outsider, to which Billy agrees. On the Dreadful Whale, Dowd explains that the Eyeless are in possession of a ritual knife that was originally used to create the outsider thousands of years prior. Dowd believes that the knife can be used to kill the outsider. Billy is visited by the outsider, who replaces her right arm and eye, granting her supernatural abilities. So you got to do that first level without any abilities, which is quite fun.
Okay.
Billy investigates the leadership of the Eyeless. She discovers that the knife is contained in a safety deposit box in Karnaka's largest bank, and steals the keys to the deposit box from the Eyeless leaders. Billy infiltrates the bank and steals the knife, upon which the outsider appears and reveals that Dowd has died of natural causes aboard the Dreadful Whale, to her dismay. She returns to the ship and burns it down, cremating Dowd's body. Billy infiltrates the Royal Conservatory, where a former Eyeless leader had hidden important documents. They detail the location of the Void Portal at an abandoned mine outside Karnaka. Billy travels to the mine, which is overseen and operated by the cult that created the outsider. Billy learns from their notes that the mark of the outsider is actually his name, written in an esoteric script that only the dead can read. Billy makes her way to an artifact called the Eye of the Dead God and absorbs it, allowing her to safely enter the Void Portal. Inside the Void, Billy makes her way to the Ritual Hold, where the outsider resides. There she finds him bound and immobile. Billy can then either return the outsider to the mortal realm by having Dowd's spirit pronounce his real name, or use the ritual knife to kill him. Either way, the outsider is displaced, and Billy acknowledges that with the outsider gone, the world will be changed, as there's no longer anybody who can decide who will receive the Void's power. So it turns out that this cult he was basically like a homeless kid that was like a street urchin, and it turns out that this cult is abducting people off the street and using them to access the Void. And he is someone that was sort of created by the cult, it turns out, and has just been sort of basically roiling in pain for thousands of years.
Jesus.
So you can either choose to kill him or make him mortal again and let him go live his life. So I made him mortal again. That felt like the right thing to do, because it felt like a good sort of closing of the loop, in that, like,
Yeah.
when you start, because when you get to the guy at the end, Dowd's spirit's there and he still wants you to kill the outsider, and I felt like it was a nice breaking of the chain in a way that like didn't sort of perpetuate this loop of killing
people. Yeah.
I actually thought this DLC was the weakest part of anything that all the games have got. It just seems to ratchet things up to a level. So, like, what I liked about the previous games, especially Dishonored 2, is that it will present you with a bunch of scenarios, and it will allow you to try and poke at the edges and figure out. And it's almost like a puzzle that you can solve, and you can generally complete the missions how you want to do it. There's missions and side missions in this game that can only really go one way. So I think I maybe discussed it, but there's like a side mission where you've got to abduct a bartender and take him and hide him somewhere so that basically someone can kill him. Because that's what this game is. But he's in the middle of a busy bar, and I could not for the life of me figure out how you get him out of there without alerting everyone. So I ended up sort of giving up and looking up a guide, and you can't. You basically just got to aggro everyone and kill loads of people. So I ended up sort of half doing that, half not. There's a mine. I don't know if it's in the main game, but you get a mine in this game that basically sucks people towards the mine and like pins them to the ground. So I had like 8 of them, and I had like a line of them going up the stairs. So I like walked into the room, punched someone in the back of the head, aggroed everyone, then just legged up the stairs, and like loads of people were chasing after me, just getting sucked to the ground one after the other. And then one guy.
Is that the not the razor thing vine, is it? Mine, the razor wire mine. I can't remember what it's called now.
Kind of like that. It was the same idea.
Yeah. There's like a stun mine as well, isn't there? But yeah.
And then I was like going back downstairs thinking I'd figured it out, and then I was like walking down looking, and then I was like looking at these bodies, and all of a sudden this just like pool of blood just came from underneath. So I don't know if they had just had like their insides sucked out or whatever happened, but yeah, they ended up most of them dying anyway. After my big convo, honestly, it was there for about 45 minutes. I had more fun with the DLC when I sort of gave up with the side missions and just started mainlining the story. I thought that the side missions it had, like I said, they were either not fun, wanted me to do certain things and didn't really give me an option to try and figure out other ways around it, or just led to me wandering around aimlessly for a long time. And so yeah, it's probably the weakest part of the game. But it's still fun and it's interesting to sort of close the loop on the story, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't think you missed too much. Having listened to my blurb about the story, I feel like you've now got all you needed to get from it.
Yeah, she seems like she had some maybe interesting powers.
The blink works differently. Yeah, the blink works differently. So
that's swapping positions with things, isn't it?
Yeah, so like with Corvo, you'd obviously you'd hold the left trigger and then release it, and he'd zap.
Yeah.
With this one, you pull the left trigger and then it just like makes a marker, and then when you pull the left trigger again, she zaps to it. And then you can get other things on it that'll leave like fake versions of yourself around the place to distract people. So if you get spotted, you can zap somewhere, and it leaves like a body double that people will aggro towards rather than aggro towards you.
You could you had that ghost like spirit form as well, didn't you, where you could stop time to kind of have a look around.
Yeah, you can have a look around, and you can interact with different things. So one thing that you could do is quite fun. So the warp that Billy Lurk's got only works if you're in eyesight of it. But what that meant is you could sort of become the ghost, go through a pipe, come out, and if you could see yourself through a window, you could put a warp down as the ghost, and then when you went back to your human self, you could zap yourself inside buildings doing that, which was quite cool. But yeah, it's nothing.
Shame. I would have liked to have played it. But
yeah, it would have been good if you had managed to finish it off. But yeah, like I say, it's easily the weakest part of the trilogy. I've got a chat here about will we ever get a Dishonored 3, but we've kind of covered that probably.
Yeah.
Potentially, but probably not. I think now that Microsoft need games, there's maybe more of a chance.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope.
Well, because the only thing that Arcane seemingly have in the pipeline is that is it Blade?
They're making Blade, aren't they? I forgot about that. Yeah. That's the game I keep forgetting exists. That Blade game and the Wolverine game that Sony are making.
Yes.
Forget that exists.
Is that Machine Games doing that?
Oh, I don't know. Let's have a look at that. That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, Marvel's Blade. Well, I was going to say developed by Arcane Leon, but that's all there is. So it's just Arcane Studios these days. It was 2 years ago.
Insomniac's making it.
Oh,
the Spider-Man people.
Yeah, that's right.
Very interesting.
I swear Machine Games have got something interesting coming up.
Well, they've just finished Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I guess they don't have anything coming up. Oh, I'm cutting that out then.
So yeah, that's it, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome
we're just going to sit here talking about how amazing it is otherwise, aren't we? Over and over again for the next... Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really... I guess, like, if you take anything away from this podcast, I think it's, for me, is the inventiveness and the willingness to let... The willingness/confidence to let people push at the edges of their game. They've created this sandbox and allow you to really just take advantage of it and go nuts. You never feel like you're being reined in or blocked from doing anything in it. The game just constantly feels like it's empowering the player to explore the possibilities that the sandbox can give you.
Yeah,
which I think makes a truly special game.
I don't think I've ever enjoyed sort of those types of sandboxes as much as I have in these games. They just feel endlessly rewarding. No. Like I say, they can be slightly frustrating if you do something wrong, but this game is never punishing either for your mistakes, and I respect that so much for letting that sort of be the way that it can play out and the way you can manipulate so many different things to work in your favor, and how you can escalate things or de-escalate. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm. It really is. So, what have we got next, Alex?
Well, next, it's we're already in March now, so it's time to start watching some movies with March Movie Madness.
This is our second one.
Yes, second annual. So hopefully we'll get a couple of these done. We will definitely be doing Ghostbusters, the first movie. I'll probably watch Ghostbusters 2 as well.
How many Ghostbusters movies are there?
I'm not watching any of the other ones. There's maybe 4 now. I guess there's 2. Afterlife and whatever the other one was, the reboot one. So maybe there's been 5 actually.
So there's 1 and 2. There's no Ghostbusters 3, no?
Supposedly this serves as Ghostbusters 3. This game that we're going to be playing,
2,
Ghostbusters
the game, and then they've got the Ghost Women Busters, and then there's 2.
Probably
then there's
2 after that. Isn't
2
there?
after that, yeah. I'll be watching 1 and 2. I think I'll do that.
Yeah, is it Frozen Empire? Yeah, I'm not watching any of them. No, I'll be definitely watching Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. The proper ones, that's for sure.
What can we watch them on?
Well, I mean, I've got them on DVD, but what can we watch them on? Netflix, apparently. So let's have a look on Just Watch, which is a great app. Okay, so Ghostbusters is on Netflix. Ghostbusters 2 apparently is not on anything.
Right, okay.
Oh, no, it's on Prime Video. It's on Prime Video, so I don't know what this is.
Excellent. Okay, let's have a look. Because what I liked doing about with our March
Movie
Madness...
It's in 4K on Netflix.
Our March Movie Madness last year I was buying the Blu-rays of the games we were covering.
Ah, yes. So obviously a much cheaper thing than...
2 on Blu-ray. $11.99.
But that's not bad.
Yeah, I might just buy that.
I'm doing that right now.
And what's Ghostbusters Afterlife? On Amazon. Because there's a 3-film collection, It's got it's 2021. I'm not doing that.
No, that's the most recent two. That one and Frozen something or other, some bollocks.
Yeah, I'm getting that now. Ghostbusters 1 and 2.
Ghostbusters 1 and 2 on Blu-ray.
Sigourney Weaver as well.
Funny if they only had one in stock and then it's like, if you buy it, it's just like, yeah, you can't get it now.
Did we do Alien or did I just fall down an Alien hole when
we did it for
we did Batman and RoboCop last year, didn't we?
Yeah, I think maybe you just watched the Alien films when we played Alien Isolation.
Right, I think okay.
That must have been it.
Yeah, it must be. Right, add to basket. Get your arse in that basket. What the fuck have I been doing? £249 in my basket. Well, anyway, I don't know what I've not been buying there. I need to go and delete that.
Yeah, do not click proceed for the love of God.
I guess that brings us to the end of another episode of the When It Was You podcast. Yeah, so sorry to close that out. March Movie Madness. We're going to play a game, watch the movie associated to the game. The first up is we've got Ghostbusters. The movies, we'll be watching Ghostbusters. Well, we've just committed Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and we'll be playing the game, which is called Ghostbusters.
Just called Ghostbusters, but we'll be playing the remastered version of that. Ghostbusters, the video game.
Is it first or third person, this game?
Third.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it actually first came out on the Wii.
Oh, did it?
And then was ported to 360 and PS3 and then remastered. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I think that's also what threw me off.
The video game.
I've just got a vague memory of Greg Miller talking about this game on PS3 on a podcast Beyond and me watching a video, and it was just of someone walking upstairs in first person. So I thought this was a first person game.
So it was apparently developed by Terminal Reality and published by Atari.
Oh my God.
Terminal Reality on the PS3, Windows, and 360, and then Red Fly Studio did PS2, PSP, and Wii versions, because the Wii version, obviously, you could do the fucking Ghostbusters program back with your Wii. Yeah. The remastered version, that was developed by Saber Interactive. What the fuck is happening? But that marked the game's 10th anniversary and the franchise's 35th anniversary, and is dedicated to Harold Ramis, who died 5 years before the game was remastered. So it's based on the PS3, Xbox 360, and Windows versions. Interesting.
Excellent. Well, we've got that to look forward to, folks. So
we do.
Get playing Ghostbusters and get watching Ghostbusters. Why would you not want to do that? Which brings us to the end of another episode of the When It Was You podcast. If you liked what you heard, and even if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to our podcast on your podcast feed of choice? Or if you prefer to consume your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search for our When It Was You podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for you, you can also follow us on the website formerly known as Twitter at When It Was You Pod, or the same name over on Blue Sky, and you can even send us an email to tell us how wrong we are by writing to whenitwasyoupod@gmail.com. Alex and I also have Blue Sky accounts at Thrillix and at Super Smiley. And if you're one of the young ones, we've got TikToks ahead there, and search for When It Was You Pod if you so wish. Alex, any housekeeping?
We just did a video game Hall of Fame on superhero games, which I won. Hooray! Batman Arkham Asylum's in the Hall of Fame. So that's lovely. Issue 8 of Sega Mania magazine is in my hands right here.
Excellent.
Look at that. And that is still available at sega-mania.com. I believe it's still available anyway. It may have sold out. Don't know. Other than that, no.
And on that bombshell, I've been David, he has been Alex, and we have been When It Was You. And I'm out.
Keep gaming.